The winds are strong in the political world for the current folks in power, many of them boomers, to pass the torch on to the next generations. Amanda Litman is the co-founder and president of Run for Something, whose mission is to recruit and support the next generation of diverse leaders running for local office. She's also the author of When We're in Charge, the Next Generation's Guide to Leadership. And Amanda Litman joins me this morning to talk all about it. Amanda, it's good to see you. Congratulations on the book. The organization, you know, you write in the book, which I've read cover to cover, that when you were 27 years old, you started Run for Something. That's back in, well, we just gave your age away. That back when you were in 2017. And you were the youngest person in the room at that time. And then 2022 comes and things change. You also lived in Chicago for a period of time. Talk about all of that coming together.
I'm originally a Northwestern grad, lived in Evanston for 4 years, and then in Chicago afterwards when I worked for the Obama campaign and then organizing for Action for about a year after that. We started Run for Something to help young people run for local office all across the country. And over the last 8 years, I've had more than 220,000 people raise their hands, all millennials and Gen Z who do things very differently. So I wrote When We're in Charge about both my experience leading the organization and doing it a little bit differently, but also about the young leaders we've worked with across the country, as well as the more than 130 millennial and Gen Z executives from tech, media, education, business, faith leaders, doctors, who are all showing up and trying to show up for their teams in a way that treats work and community in a whole new light.
It's interesting. You say that by 2030, the millennials and Gen Z, that's going to be the majority. Boomers are still around now. I also have this great note in the book that says if you're reading this book, you're probably a millennial or a Gen Z. Well, all right, I'm a boomer, and I read the book. What role do boomers have to play today? I know people like David Hogg are trying to move some of them out and make the way. How important is that?
I think it's incredibly important. Part of leadership is planning for the future beyond yourself. Boomers have an incredibly important role to play in mentorship, in training, in lifting up the next generation. And I will say next generation leadership, the kind I talk about in the book, is not just about age. It's about mindset, mentality, about tools and tactics, and it's available to anyone regardless of when you were born.
Well, that was good news to hear. I want to take some of the efforts, things you write about in the book, which young people will love, and apply them to some things going on. As you know, and you've written about this elsewhere, but Zohran Mamdani, who won the Democratic primary for New York City mayor recently, you write about that, and you said that produced an incredible response from people. I mean, he beats Andrew Cuomo. Kind of a shock. My question is that a recipe for the future as things go on? Is it a one-time happening? What's your view on that? That election?
No, more than 10,000 people signed up with Run for Something in the 2 weeks after Mamdani won that mayoral primary. That's more than any other organic candidate recruitment surge of the 8 years we've been around. It is a monumental shift in who considers themselves as possible leaders. They're not all ideologically aligned with Zohran, but they are all values first and ready to run voters first campaigns in a way that know how to show up in 2025. I think it's going to change what the Democratic Party looks like for the future, whether they win or not.
Well, you also see a lot of the leaders in that party haven't exactly been lining up to endorse him. And the question is, will young people go to the polls? So you're saying this was not an anomaly and people better wake up.
Absolutely. And I think the leaders who are dragging their feet to endorse them, especially the ones who represent New York City voters, need to get with the program. Otherwise, they're going to undermine trust in the party more than anything Mamdani might do himself.
I mentioned David Hogg before. I just want to visit with him again a little bit with you, which is he sort of made it his mission. He was on the DNC for a while until they kind of booted him off. This effort to say some people have to go. Now, he's making this effort to bring in new blood in safe districts. So he doesn't want to do anything that would bring a Republican into a Democratic district. But once again, it's a move that seems to get mixed reactions from people.
I wrote an op-ed back in February that every Democrat over the age of 70 should make this their last term, should retire, should create space for the next generation of leaders. And here's the thing. Run for Something has helped elect local folks, people in their 20s and 30s, to positions on city councils and school boards and library boards in nearly every House district where there is currently a Democrat over the age of 70. So we've got a great bench of talent all across the country. We've just got to help them rise.
The book has 3 parts to it. You create a framework. I'll encourage people to read the book to go through all of that. But you also have the stories of several individuals in there, a millennial rabbi, a cancer survivor, entrepreneurs, engineers at NASA. Is there a through line to the people that we read about in the book?
I think each of them in our conversations told me about their leadership styles. So many brought up wanting to be authentic, wanting to be honest, wanting to be transparent, wanting to create space for people to have lives outside of work while acknowledging all of that is so hard to actually do. And we don't have great models for how to do it. So I loved the conversations I got to have with folks across different industries and across the country because the themes that echoed throughout them, they were so common. Same struggles, different details, but same struggles.
You also write about the power of social media, and that's been a fascinating thing to see. It's developing so fast and has been developing, and that's where maybe the boomer issue versus millennials and Gen Z comes into play. Talk about the power of social media currently as it is and where it goes, because I think since in the 2020 election, it seemed to be pretty critical.
Oh, it's huge. It's how most people get their information, regardless of age. Young people might be more on Snapchat and TikTok. Older folks might still be more on Facebook. But regardless, basically everyone is getting their information from social media right now. People are probably watching this clip on social right now. I think it's really important, especially for politicians and elected leaders, to be where people are, to communicate where they are. And to remember that folks on social media, they're not looking for a brand. They're looking for a person who can tell a story, who they can get to know. That's the same thing is true for executives in business, too. You got to be a real person and give themselves a little bit of your humanity.
You close the book with a really interesting phrase. You say, we don't have dream jobs, we have dream lives. I thought that was just a really interesting concept and basically saying we need to be more than our professional identities. I'll just turn it to you for a moment to sort of talk about that really powerful comment.
Oh, I appreciate that because I think it's so important, especially for millennials and Gen Z who have seen these institutions that we have come up through crumble around us, who have been through layoff after layoff, who have seen that work will never love us back. We have to build identities bigger than our jobs. And part of our responsibility as employers, as leaders, as people like me, is to create workplaces where that's possible so that you can get the job done. You can get a well-paying employment. You can have dignity of work and then have the time outside of it to have a family, to have friends, to have a life, to engage in your community. If we do that for our teams, it creates space for us as leaders to do the same thing too.
Finally, real quick, are you optimistic for the future?
So optimistic, which I know feels crazy to say right now, but we've seen record numbers of people signing up to run for office. I've seen what happens when these people take power. I think it could be transformative. We are on the brink of something magical, both for the Democratic Party and the country, if we're willing to invest in the work to make it so.
Amanda Litman, congratulations. The book is When We're in Charge, The Next Generation's Guide to Leadership. Even if you're a boomer, you can read it. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Have a good rest of the day.